So, when were you born?
1940, February 16th, 1940.
All right, and where did you grow up?
Rowan Jackson.
All right. And then, like, what was one childhood memory that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, I got a lot of childhood memories.
You can say multiple. That's fine.
Yeah, multiple childhood memories. Well, almost got kidnapped.
Yeah.
What else? Having my own pony.
Mhm.
And having the best mother and dad in the world.
Yeah. All right.
And what else? Having a private lake
Mhm.
right next door. And had good neighbors to play with, mostly boys.
All right, and then what was one of your favorite pastimes?
When I was how old?
Still elementary school, around there.
Favorite pastimes. What? Favorite pastimes. Well, I like to play with the pets on the farm. I would say that would be the most, that I did. And go to picnics and
Mhm.
visit relatives.
All right. And then, what were your parents like? Like, what was their parenting style? Strict, easygoing, etc.
Well, I can't. I should tell you because I was a good kid, so
Yeah.
I guess. Well, relatively strict.
Yeah. And like, how did they enforce that towards you?
Well, if I didn't do something right, they let me know.
All
But
right.
basically, I think they just kind of let me do my thing.
And is there like a specific moment where they acted like this towards you?
Got my my one and only spanking from my dad when I took my pony out on the road. Went to the neighbors.
Yeah. All right. Now we're gonna start moving into like school and like friendship questions. So, what elementary school did you go to?
St. Peter's and Slinger.
And who was your first friend that you met?
My first friend. What, boy or girl? You don't know.
Doesn't matter.
In school.
Yeah.
First friend. A girl named Carol Hull, Holl.
And what was your like favorite memory that you had with him? Why this such a close friend?
Of this close friend.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't come back to school after second grade. She transferred to the public school. Had to get new friends. By then, I had a lot of them.
All right. And who was your favorite teacher at the school, if you still remember them?
I remember every one of them. Favorite teacher. Sister Mary Ann.
Sister Janet.
Sister Janet was a pretty young sister in the convent at that time. Sister Mary Ann.
And why was she your favorite? Like, what would she do for you?
Well, she apparently liked me, and she was really strict.
All right. Then what was your favorite class at the school?
Math, arithmetic.
All right. And like, how was that? Was that easy, challenging for you?
Easy.
All right. So now we're gonna start moving on to like high school years and that question. So what high school did you go to?
Slinger High School.
And what were some school activities you were involved in?
They didn't have much for girls, but they had a girls' athletic program, which was basically playing volleyball in the gym and baseball outside. And band was my very busy band and chorus. I was in that.
And what were some places like you traveled for like band and choir, and what was like the transportation like?
On the yellow school bus, and we went to Cedarburg and all neighboring, Cedarburg, Hartford, all over for different marching. Union Grove, one of our away ones. We went all over with sports too. The boys did anyway, but we went as spectators.
And what was like a big event that you remember, like that had to do with band or choir?
Big event. Marching and competing in parades and winning first.
And how many times did you win first?
Quite often.
Hmm. So the competition wasn't very good, or?
Well, it was relatively good. It went according to school size, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
We were
it's
too
like
small to
divisions.
compete with West Bend and Hartford, but we competed with Cedarburg and some of those.
All right. So now we're gonna move into some like what was like the school, like what was like their motto and stuff, and like what they have. So, what was the school lunch like?
Very good. We had home cooking, ladies cooking.
Hmm. All right. And what were some of the popular meals?
Barbecue, homemade barbecue, and grilled cheese, mashed potatoes, and stew meat. The meals were really good, and the desserts were homemade too.
Hmm. What was your favorite meal personally?
I kind of like the barbecue, the homemade barbecue.
Okay.
We used to have finger jello before they knew what finger jello is, and the boys threw the finger jello around.
Would you ever throw some of it around?
No. You got in trouble when you did that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's stuck on the ceiling.
Oh yeah. Did you ever get in trouble at school?
In high school? No.
No.
That it wasn't worth it.
Okay. All right. So now we're gonna go like your first year driving and like how you were. So when did you start driving?
I started driving when I was 16. The year that I started driving was the first year they started testing them from the state.
Mm-hmm.
You had to drive, and I didn't make the first test because I couldn't parallel park as close as he wanted me to.
Oh, okay.
I was upset, but I went home and I practiced, and I could still park parallel.
All right. And then what was your first car?
My first car that I drove, or that my own car?
That you drove, I guess. And then you
Right.
could say your own car too.
I learned on a 1950 Studebaker. It was my parents. It was a nice car. But it only went 82 miles an hour.
Yeah. And then what was like the first car you purchased with your own money?
My own money. My first car, my mother and dad bought me, and that was a Rambler, a medium-sized Rambler. Nice car, very economical, and always started when it was cold. My first car that I bought. Really, I never bought it until we got married, and then that one was a Rambler too, but that one was a two-door hardtop, more of a sporty thing, but it was a medium-sized.
Mm-hmm. And then what were some of the traffic laws like back then?
It was a 55 speed limit on more roads than now it's 55, you know, on these county roads, but then it went down, but it was 55 only on the main highways.
All right, and then what time did you leave for school in the morning? And if weather played an impact on that?
What time did the bus pick me up? 7:30.
And then when you started driving, what time did you leave? Same time?
I didn't drive to school too much. I probably, once I was working, once in a while I did drive to school too, but I didn't drive to school too much. We only had one car, so I couldn't be taking a family car.
And if it would like snow, how would that like affect the buses and their routes, and if school would be even off?
Yeah, we had days off because the roads were narrow, and there was a lot of snow that all got plowed out with a big Caterpillar because there was no blacktop, and it closed quite often. And we used to get stuck with the school bus, and big boys used to go out and shovel the bus in and then sit up out.
And then what would like the snow day look like for you? Like what would you do with friends or your parents or whoever?
We'd ski in the hills around here, and we didn't just do too much. When I was real little, my dad used to have to haul. I wasn't going to school, but he'd take the neighbor kids to school with the horses and a sleigh to get out. Sometimes I went along, but not too often.
And was that dangerous?
They went through the fields.
Oh. And how long did that take to get there?
Well, I'm sure probably the local schools here, half an hour.
All right, and we're gonna start moving on to something like the college years and stuff like that. So, did you go to college after high school?
Went to a beauty college.
Mm-hmm. You can elaborate on that. Like,
You really want me to?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, before that, I was salutatorian of my high school class.
Mm-hmm.
And the teachers didn't think I should go to beauty school.
Yeah.
I did anyway.
So they thought you were like wasting your talent,
Yep.
trying to do hair.
I proved to them that beauticians aren't all ditzes.
Yeah. So yeah, what was your plan, and like, did it change?
Going to be a nurse, and I couldn't get into nursing school because I was too young, so I went to beauty school. And when I got out of beauty school, I realized, well, actually, when I was in high school and I was a junior, I worked at the Hartford Hospital office. Sometimes alone. Very interesting. I had a lot of jobs. I had to press people for money and
Mm-hmm.
order a breakfast for the bum who used to come in.
Yeah.
And do billing, help with the checking.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that nurses don't get paid all that much. And when I got out of beauty school, I got a real good job with a real good gal who really taught beautiful work. And the money was good, and I never did go to nursing school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And like, was the pay like good where you could like live? You weren't worried about like paycheck to paycheck? You were just...
No, well, I lived at home with the beautiful parents for nothing.
Yeah.
So I could save a lot of money. So when my husband came home from service, we built a house for cash.
All right. And like, what was it like in your profession when you got into the work world? Like a real stable job.
Well, you work with people. It's like you guys work with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super experience. You realize you've got to adjust yourself to other people's personalities. And basically, they're all pretty good. Some are difficult, but that's life.
Mm-hmm. And how would you like deal with like, say you're like cutting someone's hair and they would give you like attitude or something, not like your work? You know, how would you react to that?
That didn't happen very often.
Not much. You had
No.
You had good enough work for them.
Nope. I had good training from my boss.
Mm-hmm.
My fun thing when I first started working in the beauty shop, I worked on a lot of high school kids from the various communities because we had a modern shop, did all modern styles, and got girls from proms. They book ahead of time, and this was really kind of neat when the young, well, you know, you like to work on the young people. And I did have old lady clientele too at the shop, but I enjoyed working on these kids. We could not cut men's hair, that was against the law.
Yeah.
They couldn't come in, although when the boy bands started to come out, they would come in to get just a little bit cut off.
Yeah.
But that was illegal. And but they wouldn't go to the barber shop because he cut all their hair off, but we didn't.
And when did that like law change where you could cut it legally? And
I can't even tell you, probably in the 60s.
mm-hmm.
That would be 70s maybe.
And how did like how many more men like started coming into the shops and asking for haircuts?
A lot of them did. By the time that we were in the 80s, there were about, I would say, where I worked, about 20% were men.
And then like what would the average cost of a haircut be for a man and then a woman?
Well, basically, it was the same as women's, but our, prices were low back then.
Mm-hmm.
You really we worked commission, so you really had to put out. But if you had steady customers, especially with your sets, if you pushed out over $200 a week, then $100 was yours. So I can't remember what the haircuts were for sure, maybe $3 or something like that.
$3. That's pretty cheap. All right, and then we're gonna start moving to some questions on like the war and like, or not really war, but if there was a war going on and like how it impacted you. So, were we currently at war when you graduated high school, or like the Cold
No,
War too?
It was, no, we were between wars. We were between, wait a minute. The Korean War might have been on yet. I don't know. But it was pushing towards the end. Or, ending up to be a Cold War, but it would have been Korean War. Because when
So, what year did you graduate though?
57.
Oh, all right. And then how come you graduated so early?
So early. Well, I skipped 5th grade, but
Yeah.
I was a late starter because we could not start before January. If our birthday was after January 1st, we had to wait. So I was a full 6.5 before I could start school. So I was one of the older ones, and there were a lot of them. In the little country schools, if you could read and do whatever, you could start at 5 if you wanted.
Oh, jeez. All right, and then
They'd send them along to school with the older kids.
Huh.
So I'd have gone to Cedar Creek Tech guy. But they had an outdoor toilet.
Yeah, outdoor toilet. All right, and then what was going on politically, economically when you graduated? Like war, inventions, etc. Like,
I can't really say for sure. No, there wasn't a war going on when because I graduated in 57, and John went into his brother went into service in 56, and he wasn't in a war. He was stationed in Korea, but there was no active war going on at that time. But the country had troops in these places, and the boys got sent to those. The only thing we were concerned of war, the young guys were drafted, and they physically were fit. They got drafted. They had no choice.
And what was your reaction to when like Grandpa got drafted?
Well, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it was hard to let go because all we did was write letters.
Yeah, you didn't know if they were gonna come back.
You knew they kind of, in his case, it would come back because he went to Germany, but still things went on. But we only wrote letters. We couldn't do these things because now they visit personally. They can see each other and the whole bit, which is really nice. And traveling was so expensive to go, and you never knew if you went, would he be on base, because they did their out maneuvers and stuff.
And did you get married to Grandpa before or after he left?
6 weeks before.
Huh?
That was planned.
That was planned,
yeah. So I remained living with my parents and saving money, lots of money. And I come back, and he saved. I got a little money from his service thing, and before he was working too, he saved some money. But served. The armed forces didn't pay much, even if you were a sergeant. That wasn't, which he wasn't. They didn't promote those guys. He was a corporal, I believe. But they didn't pay that much. But like now, they get fairly good pay.
And then when he came back, were you like trying to settle down and just both get like stable jobs?
Well, he went back to his old job, and I had my job, and we lived with my mother and dad for 2 years, and then we moved in our new house. Started building it a year after, and then it took about 9 months to build it, and then we moved in.
And did you have kids at the time yet?
We had a year after he came home.
And then, what was like the experience at the hospital when you like had the kids?
Sure. Real good. I was only there an hour and he was born, which was pretty good.
Were you nervous driving back?
I mean, driving back from the hospital?
Yeah, with the kid in the back, or
No, they didn't even have.
no car seats.
My mother came to the top hospital to get me, and
Mhm.
I was sitting in the front seat holding the baby. Can you imagine?
Yeah, front seat.
There were no. There were seat belts, but you couldn't put the seat belt on when you're holding the baby. But we did have a car seat later on, and those weren't any good either. I mean, I'm sure the child could have ejected right out of the thing, you know.
Mm.
Didn't hear of too many accidents with that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody was pretty careful.
And this should be the last question. Like, what would you have to say, like, the future generation and like how they should like go about their life and like how they should.
That's a good question. Well, no, I think what you and Preston are doing with working with people like you're doing, that is a good thing. That's better than taking a class on, what do you call it? Being social.
Yeah.
You're actually experiencing it. I think it's really good. And then you realize kind of what that's all about. And things aren't as easy now with the price of homes and stuff. It's pretty hard. You have to have a nice down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're strangled with building something that is a little too expensive, it's just not that good because you're paying insurance and still you want something substantial, and sometimes maybe renting and living a little frugally isn't a bad thing. I don't know. It's different than years ago.
All right. All right. Thank you, Grandma.